All right, everybody, welcome to the first episode of Plat Chat Valorant. We don't have a name for the podcast yet, but we're going to steal a name from the comment section on a previous video. So this might actually
Shouldn't you
the
pay
title
people for that?
What?
Like, surely you should pay people for coming up with names. Isn't that like a whole branding thing?
No.
We're just consulting the public.
We don't have money. What are you talking about, pal? Anyway, Plat Chat Valorant, episode 1. A lot of people have been messaging me. When I say a lot, I mean 2. And they said, where's the Valorant podcast? Because they were interested in our takes on Valorant.
This is for those 2 people.
Yeah, yeah. So this is it, episode 1. It's going to be, I don't want to say rough. I think it's actually going to be quite good. I don't want to set up negative expectations in your mind.
Really hooking the viewers in. This is going to be really tough for you guys to watch. Like,
all right, let's start from the get-go then. Let's talk about the first thing. Talk about the beta, because the game is released. We've played the beta. Some of us more than others. I played a ton of the beta. I was about to sweat.
Yeah.
It's naughty of me.
It's okay. It's our platform. You can curse. It's fine.
Yeah, but I'm trying to
TV.
swear a lot less recently, just
That's
because I think it's, I don't know.
You never know when people's grandmothers are watching. You know?
Yeah, I'm listening back to myself and I'm like, it's like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel.
It's pretty convenient with all the breaks that you take as the host. You don't really have to talk that much, so there's really not that much of an opportunity to swear.
Exactly. But what do we think of the game from a beta standpoint? Obviously, the releases come out and they've got a bunch of quality of life. But how much did you guys actually enjoy the beta? We'll start with you, Matt.
I liked it. I just wanted more, I guess, if that makes any sense. Like in the lead up to it, we played a ton of CounterStrike, obviously, because the 2 games are very similar. And like CounterStrike, there's so many maps, you never kind of get like fatigued. And I think the part of the reason I got fatigued is because I didn't particularly love like Split as a map. So then you play like 2 hours of Split only and you're just kind of like, oh my God, my brain. And then like, but I enjoyed the gameplay. Like it wasn't a thing where I was like, oh, this game's like just not good. Like the game is extremely good. I just want more content in it.
Yeah, to hit on that map part as well. I mean, that's one of the great things about Counter-Strike is that there are so many maps, so you can actually remove the ones that you don't want to play. Because like, if I was forced to play the maps I did not like on Counter-Strike, I mean, I would just mold, quite frankly, because there are some maps there that I just are
like imagine getting nuked for like 3 hours like in a row. You'd be like, oh my Lord.
Yeah,
or
it's like at some point.
And stuff. Office. Like, Bren, didn't you play only Office at the beginning of Counter-Strike?
No. I didn't play only Office.
You're trying to ruin his credibility in the first 8 minutes.
There's those people who only played Office to get Global Elite. I was not one of them. I played Workout to get Global Elite.
Oh my Lord.
Bren is gonna become the Split specialist.
Bro, Workout was the Workout was the best hostage map they've ever made. I swear down.
Yeah, right. Like, there were no good hostage maps. It's not a good game mode.
Mate,
okay, it's the Valorant podcast.
I really like the hostage maps though. Like I don't know, but the workout was so good. We came up with custom callouts for it. We had like the
because you were the only people.
Why are you telling this story?
Because it's relevant. I ain't only gonna stick to Valorant, man. You know, it's not what the people are coming here for.
Maybe I was addicted to this game. I'm gonna be straight up. I fucking loved it. It hooked me like no game has hooked me. I really enjoyed playing Overwatch, but it didn't hook me right from the beginning. When I first played Overwatch, it took me a long time to get to grips with it because it was a new game and it was so different from what I played in the past. And at that point, I hadn't really played other games as well. But just playing Valorant and seeing that it was a CS for people like me. It was a CS for people who have some kind of cracked out ADD and want to be throwing abilities all over the place, and then also have smooth brains and can't quite handle the slightly more complex factors of CS:GO.
I want to ask you about that then, because you said that Overwatch didn't really hook you, but you were a big Team Fortress 2 guy. So Valorant, it's still a shooter, but the aiming is a bit different to Team Fortress 2 and all of that. Like, Can you go a bit more like in depth about?
Right, but the reason isn't because it was similar to Team Fortress 2. The reason is because it's similar to CS:GO. That's the big thing. Is because I loved playing CS and I would play a bunch of it just in my downtime. It was kind of my go-to game to just fill hours. I would just throw it on while listening to podcasts and stuff.
It's actually not how you're supposed to play CS at all.
No, it's not at all. You're supposed to. Sound cues very important. Yeah. I would turn off the volume and just relentlessly feed on T side. Yeah, I'm one of those horrible people that you would get in your games. But in Valorant, something about having a brand new game that was similar enough, but with enough complexity to really like, and enough differences to figure something out. I don't know. It just hooked me immediately. I just wanted to get good. And I've never felt like that in Overwatch because I knew that there was no way that I was ever going to be good. But in Valorant, I got this in Valorant, I really got this drive to be as good as I could possibly be, which I don't know why. It just unlocked a competitive spirit because I feel like in CS, I knew I could never be good because my aim was a doggy doo-doo. I just couldn't hit people.
Your aim was dog shit.
It was. But in this game, there's the maps are more enclosed, which I'm sure we'll talk about later because the map designs are a huge part. But it means that there's a lot of places to check, but in each place, your crosshair placement is pretty similar, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Like you can pre-aim angles in this game a lot more than you can in CounterStrike, I think, because in CounterStrike, the maps are a bit more open. And if someone's closer or further away, or they're like holding a bit of a weird off angle, then your crosshair placement gets ruined. But in this game, it seems quite predictable to be able to read where people are going, especially when you add in the abilities. And so, I don't know, I just loved it. I'm in love with this game.
I will say, I mean, thanks for that monologue, Josh. Yeah.
Sorry.
Everyone's tuned out. But what's so evident from playing it now, and I played a little bit of CS when the beta went down, and I'm like, it's so clever what Riot has done, because they've essentially done what they did for League of Legends to Dota, they've now done with Valorant to CS, if that makes sense. So they remove a lot of the extra complexities to make it easier to get into from the ground floor up. So they make it so that the money's visible for both the enemy team to your team, for everyone. You can see how much money you get next round. They've simplified the system. They've made less rounds in an actual full game compared to CS.
Yeah.
The movement's slightly slower, which means aiming's easier. You don't need to counter-strafe. It's not as important in Valorant. They removed that aspect. They made B-hopping easier. Now, you can make an argument that this removes some sort of complexity from the game, but they've definitely added complexity as well with the abilities and individual agents. Like, there's a skill ceiling with that as well, and that's what's kind of replaced it. It's less the niche mechanics. Like, when I was playing, for example, when I was playing CS, like 2 days ago, I jumped in, and I'm like, in these maps, I'm like, I didn't practice my smokes for an hour to remind myself how to smoke CT, stairs, jungle, on Mirage, and suddenly I'm like, wow, how the fuck do I play the game?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you have to learn these little, these almost, I don't want to say useless little things, but they're so niche compared to different stuff. Whereas learning ability usage is such a core part of Valorant that's just a fundamental that you can learn and you can apply it to a lot of situations.
But I do think you run down a very slippery slope, or I mean, potentially, right? In terms of like how the agent design goes going forward, and if your skill ceiling or whatnot is kind of attached to the agents, like you kind of load one agent up with some bad stuff, and
that's not what I'm saying. No, I'm not saying the skill ceiling is attached to agents. I'm saying the abilities add an extra layer of complexity where they've removed it in CS from the less intuitive features of CS, like the source movement, like the B hopping, which is part of source movement.
So essentially, you're saying you just enjoy the quality of life things.
Yeah, they've added a bunch of quality of life changes.
Yes, that's what you're saying. Yes,
which lowers the sort of skill ceiling, but they've at the same time they increase the skill ceiling by adding so many different abilities and so many different ways that the agents can work together, which is. Dota to League of Legends, Dota has so many weird niche mechanics between abilities and characters, and so much stuff that's just not intuitive at all. Because I say this as I've played 2,000 hours into Dota. I put in a decent chunk of time into League of Legends. I can confidently say that's the case. I've put a fuck ton of time into CS as well. Like I said, I'm the workout elite. I got global on workout, and now I'm working towards getting Valorant only by playing Split apparently, because that's all the game wants to fucking give me in terms of maps. But I can 100% see what Riot are doing here. I think it's so smart. Like, the game runs better than CS, which is pretty astounding. I mean,
they made FPS changes as well with this.
Yeah, it's really good now.
Update.
Yeah.
Genuine improvement.
I've got like an i7 8700K overclocked, and I can only get 150 frames per second in CS. Like, it's absurd. But in Valorant, I'm getting like 200 plus while I'm streaming. It's crazy.
Yeah. No,
all right. Well, thanks for that monologue, Bren. I think when you're having this conversation, it deserves to be mentioned that I think that Valorant, although there's a lot of quality of life stuff going on, but because there are so many abilities, there's so much depth to the game, and like in a few years' time, it's going to be nuts. Okay?
It's gonna be a completely
we're
different
going
game.
to be at that level with the smokes in CounterStrike. We are going to be there. If you want to reach the higher ranks in Valorant, you will have to learn all of the one-way smokes. You will have to learn the perfect Sova arrows. And already in the beta, some people perfected that. I mean, Dafran was early on releasing videos about Sova arrows, etc. And that's just going to accelerate throughout the game's lifespan. And we're going to get to that point where if you want to be like Diamond even, you have to like grind in custom games and learn some of these spots.
But I will say that generally speaking, I don't know, but there's the way that smokes and flashes work in CS is fundamentally more complex than ability usage in Valorant for the most part. Like the way that flashes bounce off every single thing, and they aren't just like with Breach, you hit a wall, you go in. With Phoenix, they go around the corner. Yeah, whereas flashes in CS, because of the realistic physics of them, and the same applies to smokes here as well, there's way more creative stuff that you can do with them, but that also means that people have found such creative things to do with them that if you're using them like a noob, you are miles behind. Whereas even with, I would say maybe like Sova arrows, the most complex thing in the game to be able to like line stuff up.
You can get a lot of stuff done with just some dumb, like if you understand the physics of the arrow. I've never played Sova, but I was playing him. I was playing him on and off, essentially, just like in some unrated games. And I would just. How do I put this? If you have the basic understanding of how to utilize your abilities already from other characters, you can apply that to Sova quite easily. So what I was doing was I would just literally send in an arrow with the lowest level of power straight over in an arc, and I would push with my arrow because I know they'd be distracted by it. Stuff like that. You know? You don't need to master it, but if you do master those characters, it's obviously going to be helping you tremendously. I do think...
But you also have to consider like the utility as a team. You know, we can sit here and talk about Sova arrows and one-way smokes, but Valorant in a way, because there's so many abilities and so many different agents, like the engages, especially like when you take a site, that's going to be so much more complex that you will have to learn ways to shut it down with your own agents, etc. So it's going to be so complex because of all the different abilities. Like already, when I go up against some Viper smokes and then you have tripwires everywhere, like it's a lot of complexity already. And like when people refine all of those setups, it's going to be nuts to have to deal with all of that. And that's where you really get into the groove of Valorant as a game.
Yeah, we really, like, me and Bren were trying to grind to get to Immortal in the final days of the beta. And we ran into, I don't know whether you remember this, Bren, but we ran into the nerdiest Viper I've ever seen in my life. And she just had... like she was playing on A site bind with just a fairly default wall, but then knew all the lineups to be able to throw her smoke to like block out heaven, block out certain areas.
So annoying.
And then was planting in order to get her toxic waste like puddle thing, the molly that she basically has. She was planting in order to line up shots from
arcing in the air.
From spawn, basically. Yeah. So it's like, all right, well, I guess we can't defuse then once you have to.
So you have to literally push and kill her, otherwise you lose the game.
Like shit like that. Like and then even remember when we were playing in the tournaments and all those Cypher cameras, like in different spots on like the poles and stuff. Like that was really early on.
I think they should remove Cypher.
Oh,
come on.
Here we go.
I think it's
character.
a very unfun character that they'll never be able to balance. In terms of camera spots.
Actually, the pros were asked this in the ESPN poll, and I know that we have that to bring up later on, so we might be able to find it to bring up now. Is that they were asked if you could remove one hero from the game, who would it be? I don't think many people said Cypher, but
Cypher
I know
was
that
one of the
Richard
most
Lewis
popular
did an
choices.
article. Was it? I think
Yeah.
it was like
the third
fourth or
most.
fifth then. No, I think Sova was third, wasn't it? I thought it was like Raze, then Sage, then Sova.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then maybe Cypher was fourth.
He was
but I think it was.
I think.
It's somewhere in this article here.
Here it is. Yeah, he was fourth with 8%. I'm so shocked that the pros. Okay, apparently we're moving on to this topic, but I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
I was so shocked at the pros. Now, pros is a very loose term, but the top players, the high-end players from this, I gotta say, full disclosure as well, I participated in this survey, which should tell you something about
Did you?
it. But yeah, I did.
What?
Why did they ask you? I didn't get asked.
What?
Because
Wasn't it supposed to be pros?
well, because I'm a high-level player, and I watch a lot of
what?
tournaments.
Oh my lord.
No.
Okay.
You're Diamond 3. You're not a high-level player, mate.
Diamond 3 might be classified as high-level. It depends what the average is.
Masters in Overwatch. No?
No,
I don't
it's
know,
more
actually.
like
I would be
GM.
really interested to know what the percentage of players, like what the breakdown is, because in Overwatch, most players are centered around gold and it's a bell curve. But I feel like in Valorant, it's more like League of Legends, where a lot of players are in iron and then it trickles out.
I think my opinion was valuable, though.
What was your opinion then? You're a Cypher hater.
I just don't like. I don't like Cypher in particular because I think he's a very there's so many. Unless you really nerf him, he's just not that effective. You know what I mean? Because he's got so many little weird quirks with his kit, like where he can set up the one-ways, where he can set up the tripwires that are just like stretched across the ground. He'll have a bugged camera, like almost every patch. They'll spend the entire life cycle of that character just taking out his bugged cameras. There's so much to balance around him that it's hard to make him actually balanced.
Is perhaps to sum up what you mean, to try and put words in your mouth here, do you mean that the balance of the characters tied to map design more so than character design? Is that why you think that he's hard to balance? Because it's to do with where you can find positions to put your cameras and where you can find positions to put drip wires and one-way smokes and stuff?
I don't know, man.
My opinion is valuable. Why do I not like this hero? I don't know, man.
No,
I don't like him.
Listen, because I feel like he's too hard to balance because of the way he works. Like, you either heavily nerf his abilities where they can't be applied to as many objects on the map, or you have to take a stance on how you want him to be played. But I think it will reach a point where top level ciphers. I thought you were laughing at me, but it's just a cat meowing below me. You have to take a stance with how you want to balance this character, and right now it just seems like they're just opening the floodgates and just letting whatever goes.
I wouldn't say that. They removed a
With
lot of
the
bugged
exception of the
spots.
bugged cams, because they are purely bugged. But they seem to be
even then-
okay with allowing the tripwires in weird locations that just nerdy as all hell.
But I think that's cool, though. I think the cages are the problem. I like the one-way cages, and like, I mean, I find the cages to be the most annoying part because like tripwires and stuff you can sort
his
of deal
tripwires
with.
are easily the most annoying for me because they alter your crosshair placement when you're pushing into chokes. They are only noticeable when you're right up close to them, and you can place them in so many different nerdy angles every single time that if you're pushing through a choke, the counterplay to it is that you can pre-fire spots to clear the traps where you think they're going to be in common spots. But there are so many spots that a Cypher can place on the maps
you're claiming that
because they're not taking a stance on how his ability can be used. This is my issue with the character.
But isn't he like supposed to be like a area control type of character with like information? Like, isn't that the point of him, is to be annoying in those chokes and like deter like fast play?
I think what we should discuss maybe is just increase the detection range for the tripwires. Because if you like you can detect them from further away, like a meter or two, and then it's easier to clear them out.
Maybe not a meter or two.
I don't even I don't even fundamentally think that there's a problem with it. I mean, I think that have you seen the patch notes that Jett can just dash through them now as well, and she just gets detected, but she breaks them. I mean, that's a huge nerf to Cypher.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. There was always some counterplay to it if they placed it in
Sova
common angles. Sova shock arrows, raise satchel or raise grenades just to clear it.
And you broadly speaking, you know that it's on like a choke. You know, I'm rarely in a game and I'm completely befuddled as to where a tripwire is. You normally know that it's like if you're on split, you know that it's probably going to be B. It's going to be on B long. You know a couple of different angles of where it's going to be.
I just hate playing against Cypher, man.
I want to see what they do in the Twitch rivals this weekend, and we can talk about it next week.
Yeah, I think
I do understand why the pros voted. I think it was Raze, right?
Yeah.
Number one.
I don't understand why they voted Raze.
I do, because they are probably trying to put out a little bit of a warning sign of like, we do not want characters like this in the game going forward. Characters with abilities that kill, which is something they directly said they weren't going to have, but then clearly she has abilities that can kill.
That's why I'm questioning are they actually...
They've taken the
poll many pros, because Raze feels like a default pub answer for this.
Right, but we've seen in a game like Overwatch where the default pub answer then somehow sneaks their way into competitive, and it just becomes a circus. But
in pro level, no one is playing Raze, really, with the exception
But I don't think that it's necessarily the pros saying, I think Raze is bad for the pro scene. I think it's them saying...
They would remove her from the game.
Yeah, I think Raze is a hero that goes against the core design of what we want this game to be, which is focused on gunplay. Right? Like, that's why people objected to Raze in the first place, is because her abilities do damage and detract from the gunplay. I actually think that they nerfed her pretty well by removing one of the nades, and now they've reduced the radius on her C4 as well, so she can't do as much like consistent damage.
Can she still double jump?
People vote for Sage? Because I feel like Sage is almost more controversial to the idea of CounterStrike than Raze.
I think they've really nerfed Sage.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah, but still, like the heal and the rest, like there's still abilities that impact the game very differently from Raze. Like, I can find Raze has some weakness because she's so high volatile with her nades, etc. They're called paint shells, actually. Whereas I feel like Sage, it's fundamentally changes like the duels you take, because you have to expect heals coming out and you have to expect the resurrections coming out. Like, that fundamentally changes how I play out a clutch round. Whereas with Raze, I can sort of work around her, I feel like, a bit more, or shut her down in a way.
Yeah. I think that the Sage is played in all of the games and has so far just been a staple part of Valorant. When people think about their games of Valorant, I think the paradigm they think about is with Sage included. Whereas I think people probably find playing against Raze more annoying, because like she uses her Roomba, you have to kill the Roomba and then you get a headshot, or like you get naded somewhere and you're like, feel like it's cheap, I think.
Let's get back on track with the actual topics at hand.
Thank you, host, Bren.
I mean, we weren't really supposed to be diving into the individual character balance that much, but
we're just teasing it for next week or next time or
whenever we do it.
Next week it might just be irrelevant. I don't know, but Riot have announced that they don't have any plans. They say announced this. They've said this for a while, that they don't actually plan on including any solo queue into the game, which again, from the ESPN survey, the pros apparently widely disagree with. I don't know about that one, to be honest, because when you 5-stack in this game, you play against other 5-stacks. When you 3-stack, I think you play against other 3-stacks as well. They tend to match it up in terms of that.
Well, they try, but you never can totally match it up, right? Because if you try and match a 4-stack versus a 5-stack, you also have to include a solo. So solo players are going to fairly frequently
I think with
play
5-stacks, you will only play against 5-stacks. Whenever you 5-stack in Valorant...
No, that's definitely not
I don't
true.
think that's true.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
How positive are you of that?
I'm pretty sure I just saw it puts you in the fastest match available regardless.
I've also
all the games I've
played against 5-stacks.
From all the games I've played, it always takes drastically longer to find a game when you're in a 5-stack. Drastically longer.
Oh yeah,
and
because
every single time I see people complaining online, it's always the same people complaining that they're losing games because of 5-stacks, but there's no evidence towards it.
Well, yeah, there's no evidence because nobody knows exactly how the system works apart from the Riot guys. But they've said that 80% of people solo queue. And so obviously if you're 5-stack, it's going to try and put you against another 5-stack and then another 4-stack and then a 3-stack. It's going to kind of work its way down in some kind of system like that. And if only 20% of people are not solo queuing, then yeah, I definitely think so. But this was the thing that's been brought up here as well is Mendo's been a very big proponent of solo duo queue being added to the game. And so I was just kind of asking him and Slasher why they are not a fan. Sorry. Why they're not a fan of third-party matchmaking. Because in my opinion, having a space in the scene for third-party matchmaking to provide that like more elite experience is actually good for the game. Like send the people that really want to improve and be elite, send them to a face it kind of.
You want to keep them in game.
Why would you want to keep them in game?
Because it just like to say once you hit a certain level, you have to go to another platform other than the one that you're playing on to experience that. I mean, from a development standpoint, it's the exact opposite thing you would want to happen. You want all of that to happen through the game. You don't want to remove people from the game, put them in another matchmaking system, etc.
You are providing a separate system for those. I mean, what are we talking about here? Like 1% of players,
maybe.
Maybe 1% of players that would use a system like that, or would even want a system like that. So you never. I don't think.
Yeah, but that
1% of players.
But that 1% of players. But that 1% of players influences the other players. Like you'd have to think that 1% is your players who are streaming, who have the most viewership, are going to influence the rest.
I disagree with a lot of the pros with the solo queue option. I think that there's one of the arguments for it is that they're worried that people are going to get boosted up to high ranks and then throw some of the higher rank games, which is fair. I think that's fair, but at the same time, duo queuing in the game, I don't think that tells you. How can I articulate this? I don't think solo queuing purely in a team-based game is indicative of how good of a player you are. You know what I mean? You can duo queue or trio queue, and it just essentially removes some of the randomness from matchmaking that you would otherwise have to queue. You just get to your actual rank, I feel, faster. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're removing two of the random elements from the actual team.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think that their argument is that when you get to the high levels of ranked, and those players that have been playing in 5-stacks then play solo queue, because they are relying on like their value to their team and like playing with players that they normally play with, they just flop when they're in solo queue, and it ruins the experience of games. Because at the end of the day, you're not really trying to put the best players at the best ranks, if that makes sense. Like you're trying to make the most fun games possible.
Sure.
Like that's the purpose of a ranked system. It's not to really truly figure out who the best players in the world are. Like that's all right. That's where you leave tournaments to be able to do that. And it's the truth across all esports that the top tournament players are not necessarily ranked in order when it comes to the MMR on the ladder. Some people are better on ladder than they are in tournaments, and the other way around. But the purpose of MMR is to create fun games. And if people are not fun and competitive as well, and if people are not being able to perform in those top games and it decreases the fun and the competitiveness, then something does need to change.
I also think that you look at some of these pro players, I think they're arguing for the best ranked experience possible for them, because realistically, the chances of a company like Riot opening up for third-party programs to like help out with that, I mean, then you go into like a liability problem as well, where we've seen sites like ESCA before, like when they had the Bitcoin scandal, when they're like mining on a computer, etc. Like it's not, if that were to happen, like I'm not saying the exact same thing, but if a similar thing were to happen, Riot is in some way like not responsible, but it's their game, you
Yeah,
know, and
they're
someone is
implicated.
using their game to like promote that kind of behavior. And so I don't think it's unreasonable for professional players to like fight for as much of a better ranked in-game experience, to sort of put pressure on those developers rather than third-party sites and that kind of stuff, which sometimes big companies do not want to associate with. So I completely think it's reasonable for some of these pros to be very vocal about how the 1% should play, even though, you know, in the grand scale of things, it's pretty unreasonable at times that you shouldn't cater to the 1% audience. But I can completely see where they are coming from.
How about this? How about they do it the Dota way, where you can't 4-stack in Dota ranked, because that means you get a solo queuer, but you can 5-stack, you can 3-stack.
Is that how it works?
2-stack, and then there's
Really?
a solo.
That's so weird.
There's a solo queue MMR. I think so. Unless
It kind of
maybe
makes
I'm
sense, but it's
misremembering it.
also
Yeah, it
makes
kind of
no
makes sense.
So the four of us would have to go find somebody else, or we couldn't play with each other.
I mean, I could be talking out my ass, but I'm pretty sure that's how it worked when I played Dota. It's been a good 2 years since I played Dota.
So you can. So if you solo queue, you would only get paired with people who were solo or
2-stack,
in 2s
3-stacks.
or
That's
3s.
I will say, I think that Valorant as a game is just too young, so we're not really sure or don't have enough data to really figure out how like a solo queue would work, or like how 4v1 situations affect compared to 3v2. Like, it's a different game with so many dynamics. Like, I can completely see how one player can ruin the game because he doesn't cooperate with his abilities. But like figuring out and implementing systems this early to sort of aid that is pretty dangerous, I find. Like, you need some data to start from.
Sorry, Matt, real quick, but where's the evidence that solo queue would even help with this?
I mean, it's just because 80% of people play solo, but then what you're doing is you're empowering those 80% to never play with anybody else, and then you're taking a team-based game and making it 80% solo-based.
Yeah, because I solo queued up to diamond from like high gold essentially, and those games, I'm firmly on the side that I don't think they should separate MMR, because all playing with your teammates does, or playing with people you know does, is remove the outside variables of random teammates. You're basically making two of the variables that could be random, like your teammates, and making them consistent every single time, which means that if they're at that level, you're just going to be playing, you're going to be climbing, right?
But that's not the only thing. I mean, the fact that, like, for example, if I play with Reinforce all the time, then I am guaranteed at least one good teammate. Whereas somebody that solo queue, and one like very good teammate, someone that solo queues is having to roll the dice constantly on whether or not they get a good teammate.
If they are the best player on that server out of those 10 players, they are eventually, over time, they will climb.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, they will climb. But
it just takes longer.
The people that stack will climb faster and climb further.
Because they have teamwork and they know how to utilize their abilities. Like, it's not the same as in CounterStrike, where the best player just carries and just dominates people. I think in Valorant especially, you're more like, you need good teammates around you that communicate, and friends are more likely to do that. I don't know where this lands in the solo queue conversation and like what essentially we're talking about, but
what if you could give like a system that it's almost like, I'm trying to think of like how Overwatch has endorsements, but actually make them mean something, to the point to where, let's say Bren is like a solo queue player who plays all the time and he can earn enough credit, or let's say that like he's vocal in the game, he plays with his team, etc. And then when the matchmaking is looking for one person to fill in on a 4 to play against a 5-stack, it searches for somebody like Bren.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I suggested for Overwatch to try out was that if you have high endorsement level, you have like some kind of preferred matchmaking.
The more complexity you add to it, the longer queue times get, right?
Yeah. I think that people often at the beginning of games like this want a more refined matchmaking process until they get it and they realize their queue times are 10 minutes. And then they say, please give me back the short queue
It's
times.
very easy to complain, and
I will say
long queue
stuff
times
without understanding it.
suck. Long
And also,
queue
I
times
mean,
suck. And Valorant is so good for that right now.
all the people complaining about it, I'm not going to lie, I'm not calling out any names, but they are the exact same people that were complaining in the previous games they played as well all the time. Like, there are just some people that just love to complain all the fucking time.
I think there is some
there are definitely
genuine concern.
well.
Yeah, and there are problems.
I'm not saying the ranked is perfect. Like, on the survey, I voted that there needs to be changes to ranked. Like, I don't think it's good in its current iteration. But is a pure solo queue the way to do it? I think from what I've seen of the League of Legends rank system, that seems pretty good. You know what I mean? I don't know if you guys are familiar with it.
They have a solo queue.
There's like this. They do have solo
queue, yeah.
And I think that's maybe where people are coming from. If they added solo queues to the game, I'm not so against it where I'd be like, well, I'm not playing the game now. I'd be like, okay, reasonable. But I don't want to be... I'm very much kind of driven by self-improvement when I'm playing Valorant, at least. And I like that to be sort of reflected in the little pixels that display underneath my name when I play in-game. So it's a very primitive, you know, ooga ooga mentality, but I kind of just don't want to wait. I don't want to have to decide between solo queuing or playing with friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But your viewpoint is if you don't if they don't add solo queue, then there's going to be people out there that get higher rank than they deserve because they're boosted by their teammates.
I also think there's a group of people who, if they don't have a solo queue, they will queue up solo. They will have a bad experience versus like a 5-stack and then say, well, I just can't play this game solo, then just go do something else.
But I don't think... I think the only times you're going to be playing against 5-stacks when you are solo queue is realistically when you get higher ranked, because the game struggles to find people who are 5-stacking at that rank.
That was in the alpha and the beta, though. Like, this is opening up to so many more people who are going to play with friends.
And
like,
I also
it's going to be different.
I keep seeing comments online from people saying that they're complaining about... I mean, we're really just beating a dead horse at this point.
Yeah,
but I keep seeing
sort of.
people complaining about going up against 5-stacks, and I have seen no evidence of me going up against a 5-stack.
Also, Brent, that argument makes no sense because those people can't get the evidence. They can never get the evidence because only Riot has that evidence.
They sound like conspiracy theorists in the match. They're like, oh, we're losing because they're a 5-stack. They're not a 5-stack. You're just fucking trash at the game, Timmy. Get fucking good.
Holy shit.
Actually, though, Johnny, it's so incredibly tilting playing with people. I've played with so many whiny children over the course of the Valorant beta who immediately jump to excuses like, oh, they've got a hacker, they've got a cheater, oh, they're stacking, they're 5-stacking. Get fucking good. Stop making excuses and grind your aim, you little shit.
All right, let's calm down. Let's chill out.
It kind of annoys me. Anyway, they've also said they're adding a surrender option into the game, which I find quite interesting.
Yeah.
Because
I feel like most of the time
this should have been in the game.
No, I don't
like it either. I don't
like
most of the time I'm gonna get fucked over by the surrender option. I feel like it contributes to a weak mental. I feel like you need to be forged in the fires of the comeback.
Dude,
No, I really don't like it. I really don't like it. I'm very curious to see how it impacts like your rank because
sorry,
okay,
Johnny. I like it. The caption.
Brent, go on. You have something on your mind.
No, the caption says, good news, but all three of us think it's a bad idea.
I mean, I think it's a good idea, but only if you get the option when your teammate leaves. If your teammate has abandoned, give your team a surrender option.
Do you not like the surrender option in CounterStrike?
No, actually. I mean, the thing is, with the surrender option in CounterStrike, you can only do it after somebody's left. You can't just randomly surrender a game.
I don't think you can randomly surrender a game.
Oh, no, I'm thinking of League of Legends.
You're thinking of League.
Yeah, in League. But a League is different because once you get a certain farm lead, then some games are unwinnable.
Yeah.
In Valorant, every game is winnable, even if you're down 12-1. I mean, it's very unlikely, but it is winnable.
Even games if like Heroes of New Earth, I remember I had like thousands of game played of Heroes of New Earth, and like the weak mental of kids when it's like minute 15 and they're like, oh, let's concede, we're behind 5 kills because mid lane got boomed, and I'm like, dude, still winnable. We got a sand wraith, just farm the jungle and build your freaking thingy.
Sand wraith? What the fuck is that?
Dude,
is that like Sand King?
No, it's called like Sunwraith, I think. And
But there's a
here's
part of me though that's super excited to see Bren get within like 2 rounds of winning a game, and his teammates just hate him, and then they just decide to surrender just because. That'll be super fucking great.
I think the surrender option's fine with 4, but even when you have a missing teammate, the game is winnable because they add in catch-up mechanics.
Yes.
Like on pistol rounds, everyone gets light armor. There's an ult orb in spawn. That game is still winnable, especially with the carry aspect. How easily you can carry in this game compared to a game like League of Legends. I'm even kind of uneasy about a surrender option then. Like if they add a surrender option, I almost feel like they need to remove the comeback mechanics from when you have a lever.
I mean, I don't think that they should remove it because you still want to give the option to the to the team with less players to carry on. And I do think that a lot of people carry on. What I'm worried about though is maps that are a little like Split, where they're overly one-sided.
You only play half.
Yeah, and people just get kind of 8-4'd and then or 9-3'd, and even that can, in the previous versions of Split, they've actually changed the map, which we'll talk about later. But in the previous version of Split, if you got 3 or 4 rounds on attack, you were actually feeling pretty good going into the next half. Those games were super winnable. But some people would just get mentally boomed.
Yeah, they get mentally
leave, and then you surrendered, and that feels unsatisfying to even win games where the enemy team surrenders, especially in League. So. Not a fan of this, to be honest.
It also robs people away from fun, because like if you are dominating someone, that's like one of the most fun games, because it's like it's such a punishing game that when you finally gain an edge and you're able to shit on bad players, that's fun. And then you're robbing that away from those people.
Some of my favorite...
to get that relief. You know, you gotta counter the highs with the lows, and if you're not allowed like either, then it's kind of...
Dota doesn't have a surrender option. Some of my favorite moments of Dota, the thing that always makes me come back to that game and play it, is the hour 20-minute long games where you just get boomed and you bring it back. You know what I mean? And you bring it back.
So rarely.
Yeah, it's so rare. It's so rare. But when it happens, the serotonin starts flooding and your brain is hooked. Because and then you're just like, all right, you got to play another one, because you're always hunting for that high, that next high of the comeback, which doesn't happen in League of Legends. But you know, you want that same feeling in Valorant, because when it does happen in Valorant, I've had games where we've come back from like 11-1 at the first half, and you come back and you're just like.
I've had games where people come back up against me from 11-1. I've had one game where someone came back from an 11-1 half and they ended up winning 13-12, and it boomed forever.
I love Bren describe those games. My favorite games are when Bren plays with like Josh and Golden Boy, and then he mutes his mic and just says he can't play anymore, and then just leaves the party immediately without saying anything and just instantly solo queues his rage away. Those are my favorite games of Bren.
Because I can recognize when I'm getting tilted and I'm going to take it out on my friends. I'd rather take it out on 4 randomers. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you'd rather take it out on 4 innocent people in the matchmaking.
But I don't even take it out on them, because I just mute them, lock in raise, and I win them the game.
Okay.
Oh, right. Yeah.
What is this topic you've put in here?
Solo queue, mutes the rest of his team, and just runs around. How does that make any sense?
What do you mean by auto banners here? Is this that they've added?
So yeah, did you see this? So in the in the launch article, so it wasn't the launch article, it was the one that said, "Are we ready for launch?" And it asked some like important questions just before the launch happened. And one of them was, is our anti-cheat ready? And there's been a lot of talk about the anti-cheat, but I found something really interesting in this article that I don't think many other people were talking about really, and it's the auto banning feature. Now, this article implies that during the alpha and the beta, all of their bans were manual. Like, even though they were getting flagged automatically, people weren't getting banned automatically. They were having to go through manual review, and they still banned thousands of people that were trying to cheat. But they now
that guy just pressing the delete button. He's like,
just employing, what have you seen those? What are they called? The toys that are like the chicken that just hits the keyboard. Yeah, so they now have an autoban feature, which they said was out at launch. I haven't really seen anything in like a recent article about it or anything like a launch. But I mean, to be fair, it's only been launched for a couple of hours now. So yeah, I think that they are now going to be auto banning people that got detected. Now, there have been some false positives with Vanguard, and they've been fixing those when they cropped up. They were cropping up for like CPU temperature drivers and stuff, you know, like the drivers you use to monitor your
You're talking about the programs that it would automatically disable.
Yes, yeah, the people weren't getting banned for it. You're right; they were just automatically disabling it. But if they can make sure that the false positive rate isn't too high, then they should be locking down on cheaters much more frequently and easily as well. I also just wanted to kind of bring up the concept of cheating in Valorant, because I have experienced nothing of it. I've played a shit ton of Valorant, didn't see a single cheater, but there seemed to be a lot of discussion about the anti-cheat and about cheating in general.
How much solo queue?
I don't think anyone cheats that low in ranks.
Shut the fuck up.
How much solo queue did you play, Josh? Because
I played a shit ton of solo queue.
To go back to the weak mental part and little Timmy, my God, the solo queue I hate, because if I get some little Timmies on my team that start losing, the first thing that they resort to is cheaters. They just instantly call out the enemy team for being cheaters. They're like, oh, this guy's kind of sus. This guy's kind of suspicious. This guy's kind of doing this, that, and the other. And then they ask in all chat, is so-and-so cheating? Like, they always confirm what the enemy teams will be checking. And it's dead. Realistically, if they're cheating, they're probably going to be a higher rank than Diamond. You know what I mean?
I feel like some cheaters would be in Diamond, because it's like Diamond, Immortal, and Valorant. And I did see a lot of people on stream when the actual good players like Sinatra, DeFran, when they were trying to do their solo queues and they were running into cheater after cheater right at the beginning of ranked, when there weren't that many other,
when there wasn't really any other Immortal players.
Yeah, there weren't any other top level players, so they just kept running into cheaters. But as soon as the game fleshed out more, I mean, I personally have never experienced it, so I just wanted to ask around.
I've never experienced
seen a cheater.
I've never experienced it, but people are convinced, especially those who cannot accept that they are bad at the game, are convinced that they're playing with cheaters. It's easier to accept that you lost because of a cheater rather than because of your own limitations, you know?
I think the video, the title of this video should be Bren declares war on little Timmies.
that would be an excellent name.
I mean, the game actually does something to my brain chemistry. It makes me angrier.
Yeah.
Welcome to Tactical FPS.
I found myself getting properly angry in Valorant like I've never got angry at a video game before. No. And I wasn't getting angry at the game. I was getting angry at my teammates.
No.
Because
I was recording footage last night for trying to get Reyna, right? Trying to get Reyna playable. And oh my God, I was getting angry at my unrated teammates.
Yeah.
Unrated at the beginning, and I was having to keep myself in check mentally. I was trying to put myself down. I was like, Bren, what are you? The game's just come out. Like, these people probably didn't play in beta, but I'm looking at people who are like panning for gold on the floor. I don't even know. Like, their crosshair placement is like looking at the ground, like inspecting minerals, like they're geologists or something. Dude, I don't know. You guys want to talk about patch notes? Let's talk about patch notes.
Yeah.
We can dive into some of the stuff, because just to talk about earlier, one of the biggest changes I think they've made in this that people are kind of brushing over to a degree, but Sage was the second most picked character agent to be removed, deleted in that ESPN poll, and the one that people have a lot of issues with realistically. But they've made some changes to Sage. I mean, we'll just start from the top down rather than going all over the place.
I mean, the first one is Sage anyway.
Is it?
Yeah.
So it is. Yeah.
Stage.
Okay, so they've increased the cooldown of the healing orb. I like this a lot because it makes it so if somebody uses the healing orb and you see that somebody's used the healing orb, that's something that you can call out, right? As an ability used that you can maybe punish. I think that's smart. This barrier orb, the barrier orb duration being lowered and the health being lowered, I cannot stress enough how big of a change this is. Because this now means that so what I noticed in my unrated games was, do you know that thing that's really tilting, Josh, when the Sage players instantly use their wall at the start of the round?
God, I lose it when Sage players do that, especially when it's
can't do that
split
anymore. You literally can't do that anymore, because if they do that, it instantly dies. Not only does it decay faster because of the lower health, but it also doesn't even last that long. So it literally lasts.
And also because health is tied to duration as well, it's a double nerf. So it's not just two nerfs, but they compound on each other, because as time ticks over, it decays its health anyway. So this is a huge nerf to the wall.
Yeah,
that's good.
It honestly, I do think it's good. I think there's a point at which the wall will be kind of useless, and I don't want it to be useless in the game. Like I don't think it's a cool ability, but it's kind of a game defining ability, and I think I think it's important to have that, because otherwise the way that Valorant works is that you could just rush onto a site. Like there has to be some way of repelling a rush. And I don't think that mollies are as effective in this game compared to how they are in CSGO. So it's more to do with slowing people down. And like cyber cages don't slow people anymore. The slow orb's been reduced in their duration, and now the wall's getting nerfed. So I like these changes. I want to kind of bring up the idea that these are also important things to keep in the game, I think, because of the flow and how the defenders work.
But I don't think it's getting more nerfed than this. I think this is already a good.
This should be it. Yeah.
But I don't think this should be worth buying.
What?
You don't think it's worth buying?
I don't think it's even worth buying anymore. It's worth 400.
No, you're wrong, Brent. No,
you need a lot of game sense to realize when to correctly use it.
Well, do you mean on pistol round? Because on pistol round, I could see a scenario where you would want to buy a ghost and 2 slow orbs instead of buying.
I don't think you. That's what I mean. I'm sorry, on pistol rounds. I should have clarified. Previously, people would prioritize the wall and 2 slows for maps like Split on defense with Sage. Yeah. Even on attack side, because you
even on attack you would play like wall and
you can use the wall to get in onto B site on Split. Just by blocking off heaven. But for pistol rounds now, I actually think it's not necessary anymore, because the barrier orb used to be fantastic at stopping eco rounds and stopping pistol rounds, and it was really strong in those scenarios. But now with the duration and the health nerf, all it takes is 2 people shooting at it, and it goes down almost instantly with pistols.
No, I think I disagree with this, actually. I still think the utility is very important, and I think you leave the ghosts and stuff up for other roles that can sort of like maybe entry and get the advantage. I still think the barrier orb is necessary, especially for attackers. I think just buying a few extra seconds for rotations, etc., and even for defenders, buying a few extra seconds, those are vital seconds. And I don't think a ghost upgrade from a classic is necessarily going to be a game changer in that regard. I still think this is a utility hero. I still think it's pretty crucial, depending on usage, of course. But I think at its max potential, I think this is now a good ability rather than a crucial ability.
It's situational though as well, comparing depending on where you hold with Sage, because the times where you'd want a ghost upgrade is, you're right, if your utility isn't that necessary, you would upgrade to a ghost. But in certain scenarios, you do just want a ghost so you can take long range duels. Like if you're holding long A on Haven, for example, or long C as Sage, the slow orbs do a very good job of slowing down the pushes until your team can rotate.
Yeah. It's possible that the slow orbs
and honestly, when you get in game, trust me, when you actually see how this plays out, you're going to be shocked, and you might even be swayed over to my side, because it goes down fast, man. It goes down quick.
Would ever take Sage out of perma pick? Because Sage is just a perma pick right now.
No, she's still got an incredible kit.
Yeah, I think she's still perma pick.
I think it's going to shake up the meta a little bit. I think some people are going to start doubting Sage and then pick other heroes instead, and then it's going to come back in the meta. I think we're going to see some fluctuations, but I don't think she's going to be removed from the meta.
I think Sage is the only hero that's seen 100% pick time in tournament play, and she's got the highest pick rate out of any ranked play in the beta as well. So it's interesting to see if they can shift her out whilst not making her useless.
The next change
is a great change.
The next change is the raised blast packs, which is a C4 pack. So they've decreased the damage radius of them. I never really used the blast packs in this kind of manner, but actually, I mean, it was quite situational. I play a lot of Raze. I'm a bit of a one-trick with her because she's easy. But the blast packs, one of the biggest things about them was the mobility, and I'm so glad that he didn't nerf the mobility for it, because I was reading comments from people. I don't know where they were getting it from, but they said, yeah, they're going to be nerfing the mobility of the blast pack. And I was like, please do not nerf the mobility of the blast pack, because it is the coolest thing of her kit is the fact that she can do these ridiculous plays where she can enter onto sites incredibly quick.
Without the mobility, the blast pack would just be kind of like a bland ability. Like it wouldn't really like whenever I think of the blast pack, I think of the mobility that goes with it, not really the damage or anything else it provides. Like I feel like if you got rid of the mobility of it, it kind of ruins that entire ability, at least for me.
It makes it super boring. Like the way that it's used in pro games at the moment is that it can break tripwires if you're trying to push like split B, for example. It breaks Sage Wall because it does double damage to it, so it just eviscerates it immediately. And I guess sometimes you use it to get like a kill over Sage Wall or do some damage over it, but mainly it's in most ranked games it's used for mobility.
If they didn't nerf the barrier orb in the same patch, this would be a bigger change. But as of right now, I don't think this is going to be affecting much.
No, okay. I think it's just a good quality of life as well, because nobody wants to. In my opinion, it's the range of the explosion damages that makes Raze so annoying. Like when you're trapped in a corner and the nade's nowhere near you, and you're like, "Well, I'm still dead," because
it's falling all over the place.
Yeah.
The Jett changes are interesting because we've started to see in the pro scene a lot. I mean, Jett, I've always just kind of assumed she was a bit of a pub stomper. Whenever I see her picked, I get annoyed because it's usually a little Timmy and he can't play the character very well, so he throws my games. But in the pro scene, some people have been playing a lot of Jett, despite the fact that she didn't bring much. But this is a big buff to Jett, increasing the smoke duration.
This is massive.
It's almost twice the duration now. Compared to what it was.
The smokes previously were kind of crap. Like you couldn't really do that much with them. They were mostly, I think, designed to just cover an angle as she ran away. Like she's supposed to reposition constantly. That's the design of the hero. And I think it was just supposed to be like a quick little invisibility thing or quick blocking of visibility so that she could get out or get into a position. Now they're fully fledged smokes. Now they are full-on 7-second smokes that are going to be able to block sightlines when you're pushing. You can even chain them when you're defending because she still has 3 of them. And the fact that her tailwind can break Cypher traps as well. Like she's going to be useful on attack. You can even think about subbing out Brimstone and only running a Jett. I seriously... I seriously think so. Yeah, teams were already experimenting.
Fish 123 have been running Jett Raze. This is pre-buff,
pre-patch.
Pre-patch, they were running Jett Raze and no smokes. They weren't running an Omen. They weren't running a Brimstone.
Which is a hard style to pull off, and only they were really doing that. But I think now that you have 7-second smokes on Jett, you can really consider using her and the utility she has to attack.
Hot take. My hot take of the podcast. I think it's a bit of like Tracer syndrome, where they realize that Jett is actually one of the most popular characters in game. People love her kit, they love her aggression, etc. And they're like, oh, what if we apply a little buff here so that Jett is very viable? And she's the most played, most popular character in the game. And she's not actually just like YOLO can I die character.
Yeah.
So
I'm definitely going to play a lot more Jett after
trying to make her meta,
I think.
Hot take. I don't know.
I didn't play much Jett because I always thought she was a bit of a throw character, but I'm definitely going to play a lot more of her now.
I love playing Jett. I thought she was super fun.
But now she demands teamwork, so I don't think she applies to your playmaking ability anymore.
My style?
I am not Jaws, dude. I am not Jaws. I can play with a team.
The Phoenix changes get a little bit nuanced, but I think they're all good at the end of the day. So they've made it so that his firewall has a longer duration so that you can... Previously, their justification for it, essentially of why they made this buff, was that the firewall is called Blaze, I think, right?
Yeah.
The justification for it was that the duration was so short that as soon as you cast the ability, you kind of just had to play around it instantly, and it was a bit predictable in terms of how you're going to play. But now it's a little bit longer. They've increased it. It's a pretty significant buff by 2 seconds, so you can wait a little bit. It's not obvious of where the Phoenix is going to be playing. It's not obvious that he's going to be running. It could bait it out a little bit. It could play around it a little bit more. They've increased the tick rate of the damage and healing so that it just applies more often. I think that
but they have reduced the healing as well.
Have they reduced the healing?
Yeah, I mean, if you heal 3 every 0.25 seconds, that is less than healing 1 every 0.16 seconds.
That's true.
Sorry, more than healing every 0.16 seconds. Because in order to heal 3, you would have to wait for 0.16 what is that, 4-8 seconds?
Yeah, so this is them
it's-
removing healing from the game.
You can read out the context behind the change.
I actually can't see it from.
So
where
basically,
I'm
it just says that they're doing that so that Blaze, the wall for Phoenix, isn't just used to heal. Like they're trying to make it so that it's actually a wall, you know,
that was
so that you use
all
it as
I
a
used
wall.
the wall for, really.
Exactly. They're trying to make it so that people don't just use the wall for healing. They actually use the wall for utility, like what it's designed to do. And then Hot Hands, his E that he gets back every single round, that's supposed to be like your healing, your utility.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a complicated ability when you think about it. Like when you're trying to optimize the use of Blaze, it's actually quite hard to hit the precise angles and to shut down positioning the way you'd optimally want to. But I was a big Phoenix player in beta, and I love these changes overall, like having played him a ton. So I'm really happy with all the changes across the board. Do you want to go through them, Bren, or do you just want to
do you think that they... I'm not going to go through all of them. I mean, they've did the quality of life change where they replenish your gun's ammo when you come out of the ult.
So let me talk about that one, because I think that's the biggest change to Phoenix.
Really?
I mean, I think this is massive, because the way you would run it back, it was so easy to get punished, especially if you were playing defense. Like there were many times where I was using my ability on defense and then I would get rushed down before being able to reload, etc. And that just feels like shit. So I mean, you can just talk about this as a quality of life change, but I think this it reduces the ability to just rush down a Phoenix that has ulted, because you know that he has a reloaded gun and he will most likely be at an angle where he has a good angle to like shoot you in case you rush in. So I think this is a fantastic change. Just feels so much better to play Phoenix with. And I actually think it like improves his viability quite a lot. Like I know that Phoenix was one of the worst characters in the tier list when the beta ended, but like I think this at least makes him quite viable. In a way, maybe not like S or A tier, but maybe like B tier or something.
The flash changes are the biggest one for me, because they increased the price point of his flashes, and when they made that change, it felt unjustified to a degree.
It did,
so they've buffed it now, but I think I would still rather see the pre-nerf flashbangs, so 0.8 duration and 100 buy, because his flashes are not as good as breaches. Breaches, when they come out, it's hard to react to them. The sound cue from Phoenix is it's a little snap, and then it comes around the corner, and you will know if the Phoenix is around that corner. Usually, if you're playing well, you will have gained information. You'll know he's playing there, so you can anticipate it. Breach can just come out of nowhere, and it's longer, and it's the same price of Phoenix's flash. So I think they might need to revert that change for Phoenix to be more viable, because as of right now, if I see a Phoenix, I'd rather usually have a breach if you're going to be running that.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah.
And breach kind of makes Phoenix obsolete. Like just breach as a character is just, there's just so much there. It's ridiculous.
Breach is kind of cracked, actually. I don't think he was touched on this patch.
No, I don't think so, right? Yeah.
Omen's had a ton of changes. It's a bit of an essay. Paranoia now is like an equipable ability. What they mean by that is that you press Q, it doesn't just cast it instantly. He holds it in his hand, so you can direct it. So
We've actually got a video that shows all of this as well, because it's really difficult to just kind of talk through it, because it's like a big visual change to how his dark cover works as well. This is what somebody posted to Reddit, so you can see that this is what it looks like when you deploy your smokes now. You don't have to look at the mini map.
It's like some XCOM shit. Look at it.
Yeah, you go into like a wall-less version of the map. Obviously, you're not going to be able to see teammates or enemies, but you can like directly see where your smoke is going to land and the vertical part where it's going to land as well. And this is him throwing his paranoia as well. You like get it out first before you throw it.
But is this a toggle, or is it every time you throw smoke?
You can toggle it. You can toggle it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Because I think this is just simply to make it easier for noobs who weren't good at like calculating on the minimap, like looking at the minimap to see where they would land.
You also had to remember like exact vertical, because remember, if it lands on like a door frame, it just hangs in the air because it's hit the ground.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is get good, Sideshow.
cross map smokes were pretty hard before with Omen. Like they would just get fucked up by random.
But
stuff.
I kind of enjoyed messing them up because it was like a mini game in and of itself, where it was like, can you land the smoke? And if I missed, I was like, oh, bummer, you know, I let my teammates die. But if I hit it, I'm like, yeah, I'm so good at smoking.
I had a lot of Reddit Omens in my games that were not very good at smoking from long range. I think this just, again, from what we were talking about earlier with CS and removing the kind of niche knowledge requirements of each map from smokes, this kind of removes that from Omen and makes it easier. I'm cool with it, man.
They also changed the way that it mechanically works as well. Like the you make it go further with primary fire, and you make it
that's just changing the keybinds around, right?
It's changing the keybinds around, but that was the biggest thing that messed me up when I first started playing Omen in the alpha, because it feels so weird to like extend it with E and pull it back with right click and like deploy it with mouse one. Like it was so unintuitive before. It's gonna fuck over the people that played in the alpha and the beta though.
This is like if you had quality of life for this card.
I think it is. And then the ult as well has, this is low-key one of the biggest changes that they've made in the whole of the patch, because Omen's ult previously was a throw. It was it was pretty good at the start of the beta, because how it worked was you would kind of appear in this mystical wraith form, and then you would have your gun and you'd be ready to shoot immediately as soon as you came out of it. And you could win those aim duels. Then they nerfed it and you could never win an aim duel. Like if you spawned into an area where there was an enemy, you were going to lose. That was how it was at the end of the beta. They've now changed it so that you can cancel it, which means that what people are going to do is deliberately teleport into the middle of sites to find out where people are holding. And they're going to cancel it. And if and you're going to sync that with the rest of your team pushing in. And so if they spend time shooting the Omen to stop his ult coming through, you've kind of wasted your time because he's going to cancel it anyway. So that means there's like a mind game as well now, because the Omen could just choose not to cancel his ult and just ult in the middle of the fight. And then you've got like an Omen ulting in the middle of the site just as the rest of their team comes through. I think there's going to be some sick mind games with this as well. And people just getting massively outplayed.
Do we think this pushes Omen into like a top tier kind of character? Because his smokes were already efficient and now you've improved quality of life and his ultimate is actually pretty viable. Do we think he's like an A tier kind of character?
Johnny, I do think he's pretty good now. We were already seeing Omen being played over Brimstone in a lot of scenarios at the pro level. Some teams just not even opting into the smokes, but that's a rare case. I keep bringing up Fish 123 because I really like the way they play.
Well, they're winning everything.
They're also UK boys.
Yeah, it's UK boys, and they're not abiding by the meta, which is I think is quite cool. But yeah, this drives me now to want to learn Omen a little bit more. Another change we didn't really talk about that much was his default teleport, the one that he buys, one of his abilities, called Shrouded Step, I think. Now is a lot easier to use when you're in smokes. So previously you couldn't see where it was being placed, which led to me when I played Omen just teleporting an inch forward into a door. But now you can actually see when you're in smokes and your vision's kind of covered where you're teleporting, which is a big change. It's pretty big. What else have we got? This is just sound visualization. I don't really know what this entails. I think they're making it so that the minimap now shows when you make noise from reloading and dropping the bomb and other actions. Whereas previously it didn't, and people didn't understand that they were making noise that way. But I can tell you for a fact, it's the amount of games I have straight up won from the enemy team dropping the spike without realizing that it makes a noise is absurd, because
it makes a huge noise
when you drop that spike, and you've just given away a cue that is the site that you are most likely going to be hitting.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty big. I mean, I feel like the sound in Valorant, that was like one of the things during the beta where it was like it just everything just sounded like amped up. Like you could hear footsteps from like miles away. Any type of sound effect you could hear from an extended period of distance.
What's next on the list?
The other big change that they made. Yeah, go Johnny, go. The other big change that they made in the patch notes was the change to split. I mean, this change for the design of mid is honestly enormous.
Yeah.
Like absolutely
This is a
enormous.
huge change.
Yeah, I mean,
this is the old
what
we're seeing
what
now.
the old version looks like. Tiny little choke point in mid. One smoke blocks it. A sage
I think
wall
Kurt's
blocks
trying to
it.
get out of it, but he can't.
And then the new version of it, they've opened up that entire area. I mean, look, the whole place on the left is gone. There's a box to hold behind, so it's like a headshot box that you can play behind.
Yeah,
there's a high ground as well.
That'll be way better.
Yeah, so the attackers still have to push up the ramp, from what I can tell, right? But so you can still try and wall that off or whatever. But anybody with a teleport, like an Omen or a Jett, or even if you use your wall to be able to get up there.
This is a pretty huge change, honestly.
Yeah, it's massive.
Like,
it's going to change the entire dynamic of the map.
Suddenly you can't ice wall across that. I mean, you can actually. I think the barrier orb will cross that, but barrier orb's been nerfed anyway. Other ways people would hold it, they would just smoke, and the smoke would just plug up that gap that we're seeing in front of us. But they've opened up the left side now, so there's going to be a gap in the smoke. You have to use 2 smokes if you want to try and cover this.
I don't think that the defenders are going to be able to hold mid properly anymore. I think this is massively attackers advantaged on mid. I don't mean that the map will be, but your mid control, you're going to have to play passively from heaven and like maybe rope room, but mostly heaven. I think that the attackers are going to be able to get way more rounds just by slowly taking mid control and then going through ropes or going through heaven, depending on where the defenders are. I think this is going to make a huge change.
It's going to be way harder to hold this, like in the middle on defense. Like, because you had that one. I mean, you could like just kind of block it off with one thing, and then just everybody's like. Because I remember during the beta, there were so many times you try and make a mid push even before they like nerfed the sage wall. That like if you just put up a wall as soon as they start to push in, you're kind of stuck in that no man's land, like where. At that point, like the rotations to B kind of stink because B just has that one small choke where it's like, all right, let's just run out there and die. Or you have to go all the way to A.
I miss your start of the conversation to this, but I mean, I love this change because I think opening up the maps a little bit like this as well doesn't make the game feel as claustrophobic in many ways with like the small chokes and having to like push through. And Split was one of those maps where like claustrophobia was pretty real. You just had to rush through very narrow chokes. This levels up the playing field a bit more to
Can you zoom in on the frog?
honestly feel a bit more like CS almost. Where like this is a bit of a more open space where you can contest people with aim ability. This is going great, by the way.
Did you just ask her to just zoom in on the frog?
Zoom in on the frog.
She's got a hat. He's got a hat now.
Yeah, they've added a hat.
I don't know why he's got a hat, but
what's its name?
I don't know, but there was a Reddit post of someone died on the frog, and he Cypher ulted the frog, and the frog had a Cypher's hat on. So it was like a meme, and now they've added a hat to the frog.
That's pretty.
I think we call the frog Gordo.
You call it what?
Gordo.
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 The fucking name is Gordo.
We need a name that people can understand and say. Yeah,
it's Spanish.
It's Spanish for fat, right?
Yeah.
For fat?
Yeah.
You learn in Spanish?
You want to name the frog like Fatty, basically.
Yeah. That's what you just suggested.
It's a big frog, dude.
He's a big boy.
I love how you suggested the name, and then we're like, you want to name it that, and you go, no. But like,
okay, well, without the context, it changes a bit. But Harry Hook in Overwatch, he'd always call his teammates and friends Gordo because it was like a banter,
Right, I see.
And I think it was a big frog. And first thing that came to mind when I saw the big frog was just Gordo. So it's Gordo.
What were the next changes on the patch notes?
I think that's it. That's pretty much it for patch notes. The rest of it is quality of life stuff and bug fixes and just basically them saying that
they're not competitive is better mode. As well. They're working on it.
When do they? They don't have a release date, right?
For competitive? No.
Competitive? No.
I don't think so. No.
They said
they're waiting for everyone to get to grips with the new.
A couple of patches in is what they said. A couple of patches.
Really, a couple of patches?
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. That's gonna be a while.
Pretty late.
Pretty annoying.
Bren, do you want to give your conspiracy theory that you think it's all down to unrated MMR?
Yeah, I think that the reason they said that they're not doing competitive mode straight away because of server stability. It's not even a conspiracy theory, man. It's just the truth. It's
That's
just
what
the
all
truth.
conspiracy
Man.
theorists say.
It's actually just the truth. I think that's part of it is like the server stability, but the real reason that they're probably not giving a ranked game mode straight away is that if they release it straight away, then they do not have any data, any matchmaking data to go off when they're placing people. And when you do your ranked placements, your placements are based off of your unranked MMR. So what they want is they want everybody to play the game in unrated to get a benchmark of where they're playing at, and then throw them into placements so that
Allegedly,
they don't have...
according to
Bren. that does make perfect sense, because if you started rated right away, it would be a shit show. You would have people getting... There would be no way to properly place people based off of 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when there's no MMR.
Patch notes?
What's right?
It's just the performance stuff, and that's it?
Well, yeah, because they didn't add Reyna and Ascent into the patch notes.
Oh, they didn't?
They were like big. They were big.
That's what I was waiting for. So they've added a new agent, Reyna. She's come in swinging. I think she's poo-poo.
I haven't played her, but like the clips I saw, I was like rolling my eyes, dude. Like she turns invisible or something.
These are the clips that I got.
It's mad. I'm just losing it.
I spoke to my Japanese friend and got him to record these clips.
Is this your Japanese friend?
This is my Japanese friend. Whose name's
definitely not you on a VPN.
What's your Japanese? What's his name?
Peach. Nashi.
Peach. Yes. Yes. Wonderful. I hate the fact that she goes invisible.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think that invisibility should ever be added to a game like this.
And the invulnerability thingy. Is that the same thing, or?
Yes, okay, so let me... All right,
let
me tell you why she's doo-doo. So this is how I was trying to use her kit. I was like, I'll send in her blind. I'll see how this works. They can't look at me. I'm like, getting in. This player just, I don't know what they were doing. They just weren't even looking at me. This is the invulnerability I use. You can't shoot. You can't interact. And there's a that when you're out of the invulnerability, there's a cooldown period where you're pulling out your gun again. So you're vulnerable at the end of it.
Really?
Yes.
But you can change angles. There are so many times you're stuck on a site and you can't move, but this opens it up for you to move.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that good.
The guessing game.
I think the invulnerability is pretty sick once you get to a 1vx clutch scenario. I don't think that it's going to be... Nice work. I don't think that it's going to be a crazy character. I don't think she has much utility to get going in the first place, but...
She's obnoxious.
Isn't her ultimate kind of insane though, right? Like, doesn't she get the invisibility and the health regen automatically without the orb?
Yes.
She does.
No, sorry. It has no cost. Yeah. So you still need kills. It just has no cost. But here's why the character is not that good. When you're taking these 1v1s, more often than not, if you win the first 1v1, chances are, at least at a higher level of play, you headshot them for the win, right? You headshot them for the kill. So the overheal doesn't go over 150 anyway. You still have full armor. So it doesn't help you in that scenario for the first kill. The movement, so I'm using the overheal here, but it's useless for me because I'm already on armor. This is the invulnerability I used just then. The invulnerability, it gives you a little bit faster movement speed. It has the bar, but there is that cooldown period where you have to pull out your gun again and you're not invulnerable, which is pretty bad. You can't use it to push aggressively. You can only use it to disengage.
You don't think you could use that and like, let's say like she like kind of entries and leads and then she gets one kill. You can use the invincibility for the short period of time and then have another person come and peek at the same time to kill the second person.
Possibly, but at that point, why would you not just run any other character, you know, that actually has some decent utility?
Yeah, I think that the invulnerability is the only main thing that's going to be used. Like if you're in a if you're in a 1vx, if you're trying to, they're all pushing in, they're retaking, and you're trying to defend the bomb, you're going to use your invulnerability to get a kill, suck up their soul orb, and get to another position.
There's an example right there. Yeah, I used the invulnerability and I couldn't pick up the gun.
Right. That's why you were just looking at the gun for a while.
I can't wait to play her. I think this could be like a main character of mine because it's sort of up my alley and how I like to play. But I mean, I don't know if she's going to be played in pro play meta, but it looks obnoxious as hell.
This is a 1v1.
It looks horrible to play against.
This is a 1v1 where she's using her ultimate. Now, the ultimate, the most busted thing about it is the fire rate increases more than the stim pack. It's like 50% increased fire rate. You melt people with the ultimate up. But when she uses her invisibility, her E, if she gets a kill on somebody, if she uses the invisibility, she makes a very loud laughing noise when she comes out of it. A very loud laughing noise. Like, it's evident where she comes from. The audio cues are fantastic for this, and that's why I don't think this is going to be that OP. This is me using the ult, and I just have my knife out, but it darkens your screen, and everyone has a much brighter pink outline, which I think is pretty cool when you're using it.
What do you guys think about the general design philosophy, though, of like these type of characters moving forward?
This is sick, though. Look at this. The Brimstone all gets used, but I use the invulnerability to get out of it. And reposition forward.
Oh. That's cool.
Yeah. She will still be able to be traded. She's not. So here's the thing. The invulnerability lets you in 1vx. Like, you are getting one kill, using your invulnerability to go to a different angle and take the next fight. But she's still not going to help you win 2v1s because the second player will shoot you before you get this. There's still a lag to picking up the soul orb and deploying the ability. It's not like Jett where you can immediately E away after getting the kill. I would argue that Reyna is easier to get a trade on than Jett is, even though she has an invulnerability because there's more of a delay there. But Reyna's better in like a series of 1v1s.
I wasn't using a kit
don't like
properly.
I don't like the design of the hero because I think that I think this agent is basically a smurfing agent. It is
solo queue superstar agent.
Yeah. Let me get into solo queue against people that can't aim as well as me and let me shit on them and not help my team whatsoever. I'm just gonna focus on myself. I think it's not a great agent to add to the game.
Bren,
it's cool, but it's not good.
Yeah, don't even lie. This is gonna be I'm gonna mute the whole team and just take 1v1s special.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it might be, but Raze is great because the thing that I love about playing Raze in solo queue is that I don't have to rely on my teammates. I can put down a boombot and I can push with it, and their aim is split. Right? It's the same concept as the Sova drone, but you can walk at the same time. It's pretty busted. And I like that there's that sort of solo element. With her, you do still need to rely on your teammates to use utility to help you in these scenarios, right? You need someone to assist you with some of these kills.
I'm laughing
another
because
example there, you can't use the invulnerability and pick up the orb like I tried to do. I tried to get the quick orb by using the invulnerability with that kill, and I just die at the end of it because I'm pulling out my gun at the end of the invulnerability.
Hiko literally just tweeted as me and Josh were talking about that. I refreshed my Twitter and he said that he's like, Reyna probably isn't going to get much high level play, but she's extremely fun to stomp with.
And that I don't think is a good design for a character.
And especially because you're throwing her into unrated where everybody's kind of fluctuating in terms of MMR, like good players are going to get in on her and just start dunking on people.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think this is the
really
last
cool.
time they add similar characters either. Like they're going to add more characters to this game, and some agents are just going to be obnoxious, and that's
they
like
could
a fact.
ruin it. They could genuinely ruin the game. Like the character design is what will ruin. I know a lot of people have been talking about. Yeah, a lot of people have been talking about map design
in Valorant.
Yes, we will have some dreadful. I don't even think that it's like metas because it'll just be a single agent. Will just be dreadfully obnoxious to play
characters
against.
Will just be oppressive to play against.
And Riot's history has been to massively overtune agents on release, champions on release in League of Legends, right? So that people buy them. Isn't that their whole model, basically?
I mean, the last few have been quite ridiculous. Senna was absurd. Aphelios, Set.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
If they do that again, if that's their business model here again, we're going to release an agent and make her bonkers. Like, that's not going to be fun. In a game like this where you can just solo carry and there's a potential for so many obnoxious traits.
It's almost worse than like a scenario with Overwatch, like when they come out with a hero that's quite good because you don't have to pay for the one in Overwatch. Like for argument's sake, you have to pay for potentially the agents in this, and then they're like super fucking strong, like that could be.
And also, an individual agent is going to be much stronger in this than they are in Overwatch. Like, as much as people complain about, I don't know, Brig or Doomfist or whatever, you can shut down any of those heroes.
Right.
There are theoretically agents in this game that would just walk all over you, that would have ridiculous power. You could break this game pretty quickly with agent design.
Let's talk about a new map.
Yeah.
So one of your biggest gripes of the game, Josh, was the map design. I don't know if you've had a chance to play around with Ascent, this new map.
Unfortunately, I haven't yet, no.
It is very CS-like in a lot of ways.
I've watched people play it. It looks
very
much more open.
It's much more open. It has a big sort of mid-courtyard area that neither team gets access to. The attackers kind of get access to it a little bit earlier than the defenders will. But generally speaking, so this footage here, I'm basically walking from A side to mid to B. So I'm just showing you this is the attacking side spawn and just walking through it like that.
I love the way this looks.
It is so much more open than other maps.
Yeah.
So
I
much
love
more
the
open.
middle area. The middle area is pretty open.
Like this like what makes me frustrated is like I mean I played the beta kind of all the way through, but I kind of like tailed off in my play towards the end because I just got tired of the maps. Like this looks like the type of map that I was wanting to see, like one that had different like areas of verticality, like how Josh was saying earlier. Dynamic maps, I'm not the biggest fan of.
That door is.
We can talk about that, but like Josh was saying before, some of the maps that they had in the beta, like in CounterStrike, you have different like levels of like gunplay, right? Of like, you know, you could be hiding on a high angle, you could be like sitting close corner, you could be behind like different boxes. It felt like after a while of playing the same maps, it was the same fights over and over and over again in the same spots with the same angles. Yeah. Where this looks like the exact opposite. Like there's little areas of high ground, there's ramps, there's boxes, there's a lot of different options, which that's kind of what I was looking for them to go to in the map design. The closable doors and whatnot, they're
not that bad. They're not that bad.
Yeah,
honestly.
but I'm really frightened like how that affects gameplay, because like there were some situations where I played a lot of Spike Rush this morning where like people would plant A and just close the door, and it's like, okay, well, you pretty much only have one angle to come from now, depending on where you rotate.
You have to break the door, right?
It just
like,
doesn't.
Yeah,
It doesn't even take that many bullets.
Shoot the door. But it's such a like it's still like a liability that I don't enjoy. Like in those kind of situations.
It's a sage wall. It's a deployable permanent sage wall in every round. Right? Like that's essentially what these are.
Yeah, but the choke is already pretty open in terms of how you can attack into it. And also there's a lot of options to attack on the other areas of the site. You can work all the way behind. So the mid area just opens up massively. If you take control of courtyard and beyond it, into their spawn side, that's going to be, I think, where the central part of this map is and where you play around. Because the doors are one thing, and the main reason you shouldn't be pushing through those doors is because they're so narrow. It's a very narrow choke point to be trying to push through.
I do think though for the future, I love this map design. I think in regards to like different elements they keep adding, like it's the same slippery kind of slope they have in terms of like agent design. Is that like after a while in combination with more agents and then like kind of wilder map variants, like people like getting into this game are going to be so confused down the line. They're going to be like, wait, there's deployable things on this map. What about other maps? No, there's nothing deployable here. There's stuff over here. Like it's going to get like,
I just really want to avoid the situation where the meta just becomes like, well, okay, every time on post plant, you shut the door, and then the attackers like retaking the site has to either break the door to, you know, grant them other venues to get into the site and like give away where they are. It's like, that's not fun in those situations. I think playing the guessing game where you can see like where you're spectating and you can see like the outlines through the wall, etc. And like seeing that tension build up because there are so many ways the round could play down. Like that's what's fun and enticing to watch. See that tension build up. Where here you streamline how the situation will unfold, because essentially you're forced to break the door to open up the guessing game and make it like easier to retake. It's a very slippery slope. I agree.
Overwatch, we have the dynamic map elements on, but when we did Call of Duty and they had dynamic maps, all of the dynamic features were turned off for competitive play. But I think though, like you can't
like Smash with items.
But you can't do that though. I feel like in this game because like the
point of the
stuff
map
that they're adding, is the map, right? Like the map design is intended with those things in play.
I don't want people to worry too much about these early maps though, because if you think about CounterStrike and how like the very first maps, they're never played anymore. I can't even tell you what the first maps in CounterStrike were.
Yeah, but that was 2 decades ago.
Them. Right, but I think that if
we must have learned something along the way, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you would hope so, right? Yeah, but also, I don't necessarily think it works like that. I don't think that if you asked I think if you asked the people that made made a good map to make another good map, they wouldn't be able to 100% guaranteed make a new good map just because they had previously made one. There's some refining and some inspiration that comes along with it, and I think part of that can be viewed just by the fact that they have Volcano working on the Valorant team, and they haven't made a map as good as Cash, right? Like Cash was made in partnership with Volcano, and I wouldn't say that any of these maps are as good as Cash.
I might be talking out of my ass now, but didn't Volcano make Tuscan as well?
I'm not totally sure.
Volcano, Tuscan.
I think a lot of maps.
I think he made them in partnership with FMP1. Is that the name of the other guy that made them? Yeah. Anyway, I think that over time, if they keep making maps, and crucially, if they open up map making opportunities to the community as well, they will find that the maps get better and people enjoy the game more because the maps are better. I think that's a huge thing for Valorant to discover.
I mean, even just them making the adjustments to split and bid is a huge step, I think, in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely.
Seeing the map design and then taking the feedback from the community and then being able to try and adjust and do different things with the maps that are already in play. I mean, that's something that Counter-Strike's done over the years, right? That's been successful for them, is when certain maps kind of go a little bit haywire, whether one way or the other, they take it out of the rotation, they work on it, they change it, etc. Like I feel like that's well, the only issue with that is you probably won't be able to do that in Valorant for a while because you only have 4 maps. Taking one out of the pool to work on would be quite tough.
But they don't have to take it out to rework it.
No, I don't think so. I mean, you can make adjustments like on a weekly basis if you wanted. They were doing that during the alpha and beta anyway.
Yeah. To bring things back to Overwatch as well, because we're all from Overwatch, there have been some map redesigns in Overwatch, but something that I've been really trying to get so many times throughout the history of Overwatch is just more frequent map redesigns, because map design is crucial to how your game plays out.
Something we didn't discuss. Would you guys be in favor or against voting for maps to play in unranked and competitive?
Well, there's not enough, is it? You know, like yes, most definitely yes.
I'm saying you would just vote between 2, right? Like Call of Duty, for instance, like they would just give you an option of 2 maps to vote for. 2 maps, but 2 different game types.
The Halo 3 days when you could veto a map.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My issue with that is if you have a map that's unpopular like Split, and you can actually see in the ESPN poll the map preferences as well between what maps people liked, and the majority of people, I think, that were polled disliked Split. I think it was something like 42% of people liked Split. So you get into a situation there where if you have too few maps in the pool, all right, if 60% of people vote to veto Split, the people who do like Split, these 40%, just have ridiculously long queue times to try and, because they're being kind of funneled into that
big issue.
Well, you got to cater to the majority of the player base, right?
I don't think so.
I don't think you have to the detriment of everybody else.
The problem with
it's not everybody. It's that group, that core group that likes Split.
Right, but if you have 60% of people that don't want to play Split and 40% of people that do, then if you allow the 60% to only play Bind and Haven, this other 40% is going to play way more Split. And that's not fun for them either. They like it, but they don't want to play it all the time, presumably.
I would venture to say every time that like you had the option to vote between any other map and Split, the other map would win, even in unranked or whatnot all of the time.
I mean, maybe not with the redesign, right?
The trouble,
Yeah, maybe not with the redesign.
And these kind of features, I often see this is like, well, if everyone would vote to remove Split, then you should just redesign Split. Right, yeah, obviously, but just redesigning Split takes a lot of effort. and adding new maps to the game also takes a lot of effort. So you can't implement those systems until the maps are in a decent place.
You also wouldn't know how effective the redesign is if
no
nobody's
one
going
plays
to
it.
play it.
Yeah, that's the point I've been trying to make, is that if you introduce this system, how are they ever going to collect data on how to improve Split?
Yeah.
Like, I can guarantee you the changes they've made are probably based off of heat maps on terms of where are the most common deaths, where do pushes get stalled out the most.
Probably.
It's also common sense as well.
Yeah, just watching the gameplay.
Your craft as a map designer. I think that, I'm really happy with this change. But also, I mean, we've seen how fast people's perception of a map can change in Overwatch with a few changes. I don't think people hold grudges against maps, because of their former map design. So, I mean, I'm happy they did it, and I think people are going to change their minds on Split, if it's a good change or not.
Yeah.
They added a new game mode called Spike Rush.
Yeah.
I played a little bit of this. Johnny, I think you played more than me.
I love it.
Yeah, I think this is just a bit of a muck around game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you just jump in and it's just a bit of fun, because they've added these ult orbs on the various sections of the map. I think there's 5 ult orbs at once, but they don't give you ults. They give you different power-ups. I don't know what this one is. What is this one you've got?
This is a damage one. And I don't know the specific numbers for the damage, but clearly it deals more damage. And you can see, like, on the sides, there's...
You just headshot a guy with the sheriff. It would have killed him anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And then I headshot the next guy too.
So more damage, yeah.
I don't know, like, how big the change is overall. But it's a fun little mode to, like, mess around with.
They needed a mode like this as, like, a fun, like, I don't want to play super long games, because what this will do is it'll get people who don't really want to play the long, like, 25-minute games or 30-minute games. It'll get them into the flow of, like, combat in this game, and it'll get them to have fun, and then they will invest the time to go into those more hardcore games.
So because it's new for everyone, so just let's explain it, like, first. So everyone starts with the same guns, and it's random every round what gun you get. And all the attackers have a spike.
Is there some series of progression? Like, do you start with bad guns and work your way up to good guns?
Actually,
so you could start
I don't know. I started with Sheriff, and I started with Frenzy one game. I don't think there is. I think it is random.
I think it's random, but there's from a select pool of random guns, from what I've seen.
Right.
So it's like light armor and a pistol, and then either light armor or heavy armor and an SMG or something similar to it.
Yeah, I did get a Vandal in an overtime round, and I don't know if that's on purpose or whatever, but I also got, like, an Ares followed by a round with Odin. So, those were 2 fun rounds in succession.
Yeah.
But, so all the attackers get a spike, and essentially whoever plants first, that's the spike that matters, and you can't replant twice, whatever. There's like a decay orb, which is super obnoxious. So if any developer is listening, please rethink the decay orb, because it's essentially like an AoE decay, and people around it, like the enemies around it, just get to 10 HP, and that's pretty much your life because you're instant dead. So that really sucks. But then there's like a speed orb, which is really fun. You get like a speed aura, so everyone just runs around and just rushes.
Zoom in.
Kills
Lucio.
Yeah, pretty much. Kills net twice the amount of ultimate points. So if you get a 3k, you get 6 ultimate points, and then you can use your ult, etc. So there's going to be a meta that develops around the game mode, but it's like so loose and so much fun. And like being forced to play with all these guns is really fun.
You said this before we were recorded, and I found it funny. The idea that a meta develops in a casual, fun game. But it does. You are right, though. You're completely correct, Jonathan.
Well, some ults are better. It's like...
Yeah.
Some ults are just like, you're not going to get perfect resurrections with Sage.
There's going to be some people that are
just
that do just play only this game mode, and they know the best picks for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sova is like a good pick, because if you get your Sova ult, then can like use it in like successive subsequent rounds, or stuff like that. Like there are some ults that are better than others. Like Phoenix is pretty good too.
Some of the best ults are probably going to be ones you can get kills with, though, because if kills are worth more ults, and you can use an ult that gets you kills that replenishes your ult, you can just...
No, you can never do that. Wait.
Yes, you can.
Oh, yeah.
You can do it with Brimstone's ult. You can do it with...
Yeah.
I don't know if you can do it with Breach's ult.
That's a weird part about the game, by the way. That's a really weird part about the game. that
My head hurts.
ults that give you kills replenish your next ult. I feel like that's a strange
It's a
thing.
slippery slope.
Anyway,
I would
wanted to
love
say-
this mode if the K orb wasn't a thing, but
I wanted to say that I think that Spike Rush is great for all the reasons that you've said. I think it'll attract casual players, which is perfect for launch as well. You're trying to drag in these people that aren't the hardcore gamers. They're the League of Legends players that just want to have some fun as well. But I think there's also 2 other game modes that need to be added to this game. And I think one of them is gun game, because that's just such a fantastic, iconic mini game that both good players and new players enjoy as well. It's competitive, but it's not too hardcore. And then also they just need a deathmatch mode. And apparently they're working on the deathmatch mode. They just don't have it ready yet. But I think that both of those are necessary in this game, like absolutely necessary for long-term success.
You know what would be fun in this game as well? And they would have to make like smaller maps for it, or maybe just block off certain parts of maps.
2CP.
2v2. 2v2 in COD. No, not CP. No. 2v2 is a ton of fun for like a gunfight type mode.
Yeah. CSGO has that. It's called Wingman, and it's actually really fun. I enjoy it a lot. Nobody really plays it, but sometimes I hop into games and I enjoy it. I only enjoy playing it with friends. I don't enjoy playing it solo because you're with another person that they have no idea. They don't want to play with you. They
And
don't
also,
want to do
who
what they
solo
say.
queues Wingman?
People do. I mean, I have done it before. I regretted it, but I did.
It's weird.
Okay.
Yeah, but I love this mode. I think it's great. There are
Retakes
some
as well.
fun situations where I had one round where everyone got a ghost, and you mess around with pistols, and then someone gets a weapon upgrade orb, and they get like phantom, and you're like, okay, so one guy has a phantom against 5 ghosts, a bit of unfair. But also some situations where I had one round on bind where everyone had specters, and I got a gun upgraded to a guardian, which essentially changes the entire dynamic of how I play, because I don't have fall off on my guardian against 5 specters. So I get to play the long range game while everyone has huge fall off on the specters. So it's really fun game mode. I love it.
Let's cap it off. I know you guys don't want it to end, but
Brent's player of the week. No, okay.
It's not my player of the week. Valorant lore. What is this topic?
Oh yeah. Well, the did you see the duelist thing that they
Yeah,
had?
I did. I saw the little thing. I thought it was quite funny,
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Like, didn't you think it was pretty decent?
Yeah.
There's evidently, I guess, like the lore is Phoenix like worked or does work for like the bad organization of the two.
No. The good organization, because he's trying to stop Jett from planting the bomb.
Well, I don't know. From what I was reading, that like he was working with like the one of the bad organizations, which I think the skins are named after of, and like the battle pass. Like I think this is all kind of themed around the battle pass and whatnot. Like I want to say it's either Kingdom, I think, was like the bad faction.
Okay.
I just gotta say, Phoenix is my favorite character in this game. I think they've just a lot of people hate the voice acting in this game, which I wonder, are they playing the same game?
Really?
Because I think Phoenix's voice acting is fantastic. It's so good. It's so refreshing to hear just like an actual London boy. You know what I mean? Like not
Cockney.
Chutney pie. You know what I mean? Like he's just refreshingly London. But yeah, it's a super sick CG clip.
Yeah, the animation style is beautiful as well.
Yeah,
I really like
super
it.
cool.
I think it nicely treads the line between taking itself seriously and it's not too serious. It's kind of, but it's not massively edgy, but it's also not cartoony.
Yeah,
It's somewhere in the middle where it just tries to be a bit cool. It just has the same kind of style, but it's pretty cool.
There's probably going to be a lot of people watching this, maybe just only interested in the competitive side or whatever, but lore is so important for dragging in casual viewers. Take it from 4 people involved in Overwatch, that our game would be well and truly in the gutter if it wasn't for the lore. Like the fact that the fact that you have every single a character that anyone can associate themselves with is so important for getting casual players involved into a game. So the fact that they've said that their goal is to release agents from all around the world so that anyone can relate to it.
It's the Overwatch style, really, isn't it? I mean, they were the first game to properly do that, and I think that Overwatch was so successful with it that, you know, clearly Riot's taken a page out of their book. But the character design is pretty cool, I think. They've managed to appeal to a large range of nationalities and ethnicities and, just different types. It's pretty good.
Super cool art style as well.
Yeah.
Even though I think Brimstone walks like an idiot.
Have you seen how
big his cock is?
What? Jesus.
Like, no.
I knew you were going to say it.
Sponsors.
Okay. Dude, listen, when you get in game, if somebody locks in Brimstone, just zoom in on that bulge because
look at Brimstone's bulge.
When they were designing him,
shut up.
Clearly, when the artist, whoever drew him, was overcompensating. That's all I'm saying. They were compensating for something. Anyway, next episode, we're going to be talking about a bit more of the pro scene. There's going to be some tournaments that are actually played. Next episode, we don't know if it's going to be next week. We don't know if it's going to be in 2 weeks. We don't know if it's going to be in a month. I'm going to say next week because I actually think there's going to be a lot to talk about in the pro scene.
So. Yeah.
So I think we'll be able to pump out an episode for next week. But also... you know, this is a bit of a pilot episode. It's probably going to be some changes, a lot of iterations. Let us know if there's any improvements you want us to make as well in the comments, because we bend to your every will. We only listen to the concerns of the many. And
if you want us to kick Matt and get someone better, like, we're open to it. That's all we're saying.
Just let us know.
Yeah, we're open. Like anything for your views and for your ad watches, dude. We'll
All right, thanks for watching, everybody. And wait, play of the week? Oh, I forgot about play of the week.
You got your own segment, you idiot.
Bollocks. All right, we got a play of the week as well. Let's roll that out.
This is pretty sick. I mean, it's long, right? But it's so good. And if anyone hasn't seen it, you should. Is there any volume?
Wait,
Can we get volume, like a little bit of volume for this as well, Kurt? Like this, I don't even think it was posted this week. But look at these triple raise boosts. This is like a very popular YouTube video. It's super popular, but it gives me Foon vibes when I saw it on Reddit. It's so clean.
I will say, it's overly wasteful. I play a lot of raise, and if you just take a little bit of map control with the rest of your team, you don't need to waste your ult like this.
Look at this.
Yeah, this is sick.
I mean, that's so good, dude.
So clean.
It is nasty what you can do with raise. I was so worried that they were going to nerf the blast packs for release.
Yeah.
But
I'm so glad they didn't, because this is just cool as fuck.
I will say though,
this is what you want to see.
This guy is also, I think, playing against bots.
What?
Have you not looked at the people he's playing against?
Yeah, but I would also be. I've played against raises that like fly around the map, and she's kind of difficult to track in the air. It's not this aiming style that you expect in a game like Valorant. You don't try and track people in Valorant.
The little Timmies are gonna complain about this.
Timmy.
I mean, look at this. It's so fucking cool, man.
And Jett just gets fucking dunked on.
Yeah.
It is
what
nasty.
is that Sage doing?
It's nasty good.
Yeah.
I just
people
love
are kind of bots, but the movement's crazy.
The movement is so clean, yeah.
If I got this guy on my team, though, I would maul because it's so wasteful. I would be like this guy going for your
Is it wasteful if he gets a kill, though?
Imagine the failed attempts of all of this.
Yeah, they're probably wild.
Oh, wow.
You don't just do that, first try. There's a few failed attempts.
Yeah, sure. A few failed attempts in unrated.
Look at this.
And then you bring it into. Yeah,
This
this
guy's
is amazing.
he's got
the
off.
fucking operator, dude.
What is he doing with the off?
It's so stylish. I actually love Raze. I would hate for her to get removed from the game. I really disagree with the pros.
They're not going to remove heroes from the agents from the game.
No, I know, of course. But
Yeah.
I think that she's so fun. Like, yeah, she deserved the nerfs that she got, but she's so fun.
Bren will never play with somebody like this though, because whenever I watch Bren, if somebody takes Raze, he just he doesn't select anybody, and so he'll never have the ability to play with somebody with this type of movement.
I dodge games when I get Jett players and Raze players. Like Instalock Jett or Raze or Phoenix. Like a combination of two of those. I'm like, if you're instalocking that, you're really not a team player. I always wait before I lock in Raze.
Now
Jett, you can have a 4 duelist team.
Yeah.
With Reyna, Phoenix, Jett, and
I mean, no, that would still suck. You still got to run Cypher and Sage, sure.
Yeah, no, it blows because I played it last night. It sucks. Yeah. Anyway.
I thought you weren't playing.
What?
I thought it was your friend.
Oh, sorry, yeah, that was my friend Peach Nashi.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was my friend. That was my friend.
Keep your story straight, son, all right?
Sorry. Please don't ban me. Please don't ban me. I need to put it.
The air! He just shot him in the air.
Yeah, that's not allowed.
Oh, dude.
Well, I just wanted to show you guys this because it's so good. If anyone hasn't watched it, you should watch the full YouTube video. It's incredible.
This is all it needs is some loud music and some just G fuel, dude, and it's a COD montage.
Oh my lord.
It's pretty sick.
GG's in the chat.
That's our player of the week. If you haven't left already, because I kind of just closed out the show about 5 minutes ago, like I said, leave some comments, subscribe, let us know improvements.
Did you not close out the show 5 minutes in where you said this may not be good?
I'm setting people's expectations around here.
You just go like that.
I don't want their expectations to be high.
When you said this is for those 2 people who messaged me, the analytics are just going to drop off and there's just going to be 2 just floating
and then
along.
even for those 2 people, you were like, it still may not be what you want.
All right, let's end this because I want to go play Valorant. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Sam.
Yep.